Was it a UFO, or is there a more down-to-earth explanation for it? A strange sight. Red blinking lights could be seen across Morris County, New Jersey last night. What was it? Here's CBS 2's John Slattery.
This is what was seen last night between 8:30 and 9, photographed by the Hurley family in Whippany.
It was unsettling, for sure, just because you're watching something that you have no idea, you've never seen before, and very strange pattern.
11-year-old Kristen was the first to spot them, a group of 3 lights together and 2 lights together seen in the sky through the trees.
I looked up outside and I was really scared, and I just saw these 5 red lights.
The family went out onto their deck to look at the strange sight. Paul Hurley, a pilot who works at Morristown Airport, says they weren't planes.
I've been in the aviation industry for 20 years and I've never seen anything like this.
The Hurleys weren't the only ones to see the bright lights. At 8:28, the Hanover Township Police received the first of 7 911 calls.
I walked out of my house with these parachutes with these balloons with these 5 lights flying over in that.
Paul Hurley, who called the Morristown Airport control tower, says the lights had also been spotted from there, yet they caused no interference with flight operations. Between those officials and the Morristown police, the best guess as to what the lights were, nothing more than a prank, roadside flares attached to helium balloons. Yet they left rather quickly.
It took off. It was very strange.
There's been no report of any debris recovered, and police don't know who released them. The FAA tells CBS 2 News, with the exception of laser lights and weather balloons, there is no regulation on releasing balloons or shining lights into the sky. John Slattery, CBS 2 News.
Now, adding to this UFO mystery, the Hanover Township Police asked air traffic control to try to spot the objects on radar. They were not visible on radar, but those in the control tower, as John just reported, could see them. I love this story.
The mystery continues.
Yeah.
¿Cómo está? A ver si vomita.
Sí.
Well, lights up in the sky aren't really that unusual around the new year.
However, some Cleveland residents say they saw something more than your typical firework display. Eyewitness News reporter Katie McCall joins us live with the story, all new at 6. Katie?
Gina, a Cleveland woman who says she has never before spotted a UFO swears that she saw one hovering in the trees right over US 59. Now, a UFO investigator is looking into whether this was a plane, a helicopter, or something from out of this world.
Just there, like, this.
On December 30th, Lauren Harris was on Highway 59 in Cleveland when a brightly lit cylinder hovering in the sky caused her to pull over.
Strange, like the lights were pulsating on it, and it would disappear for a few seconds, then reappear in the same spot. And then we noticed too that it wasn't moving at all. So we're like, no, that can't be an airplane. And what would a helicopter be doing this late at night over the wood? I think it was a UFO.
The nursing student says she tried to document the encounter.
Phone up like this, and I tried taking a picture of it, and then I put it back down, and it was gone.
But never expected to be taken seriously. To her surprise, Fletcher Gray from MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, is investigating.
I have verified over 345 cases.
Gray looks into reports of extraterrestrial vehicles, alien encounters, and aircraft modeled after alien vehicles not acknowledged by the government.
This was verified by 2 independent witnesses. This is a UFO because we don't know if it's belongs extraterrestrial or if it's one of our own. Here's a lady that supposedly had a transplant where she'd been abducted. These ETs, or extraterrestrials, are moving from one star system to the next.
Gray believes a Cleveland police officer saw the same thing Harris did, and he's trying to obtain dash cam video. He's also looking into this reported sighting in Houston. His message to UFO observers, don't be afraid to speak up.
Always contact MUFON and to make their reporting sightings, as long as they're credible.
The police chief in Cleveland tells me he is not aware of any such sighting or dash cam video within the department. Gray says that is very common in his line of work and it will not stop his investigation. We're live in Cleveland. Katie McCall, 13 Eyewitness News.
A Sacramento man standing in the night sky catches a sudden burst of light through his telescope, and he recorded that strange sight with a smartphone.
Cody Stark shared the video with experts to see if they could solve the mystery.
So the other day, I get this message on Facebook. I have something on video no one's ever seen. I had my telescope out, caught an explosion in outer space. Want to see the video? Would I?
Here is the video. Now, it's shot on an iPhone looking through the eyepiece of a telescope, so it's kind of hard to see, so we blew it up.
I don't know if you can see that, but there's something orbiting that planet over there.
Elijah shot the video on December 20th around 5:05 p.m. in Sacramento.
I saw something that I'd never seen before. I saw another object orbiting this, you know, whatever it was up there. And I've never seen anything like that before.
He thought it was a little strange, so he put his phone down, called his nephew, picked up the phone, and shot this second video.
Oh my God, it blew up. What the? Something just blew.
Once again, it's his camera phone shot through a telescope lens, so we zoomed in and we slowed it down.
As soon as I put the camera to the telescope, it just blew up. And I didn't know what to say.
I mean, I don't blame him. It certainly looks suspiciously like an explosion.
So I sent the video off to Dr. Stephen Moran. He's the guy that wrote Astrophysics for Dummies. He said, Cody, I don't recognize the explosion as an astronomical phenomenon. I'm not sure what that means.
Well, whatever it was almost never seen by Elijah or anybody else. Not because it's a tiny speck in a big old empty sky, but because of Craigslist.
You almost get rid of that like what?
Almost got rid of it a week before I was trying to sell it on Craigslist, and I was getting offers. And man, you know what? At this time, you know, I'm glad I didn't sell it.
Aliens. Cody said he contacted a Vatican expert about the explosion and was told it could be some sort of light refraction.
Could be. Who
or
knows?
aliens.
Or aliens, yeah, that's a possibility.
Qué fantástico. Qué belleza. Es como una araña. Qué belleza. Se me perdió. Ahí arriba. Miren eso. Es una nave preciosa. Es una cosa fantástica. Sí, parece, es como una... Tiene luces hacia los lados y un eje central. Se mueve muy lentamente. Se mueve súper lento, pero parece que está parqueado ahí. Es hermoso. Hemos estado yendo a ver al volcán Tungurahua y ahora nos topamos con esto. Es hermoso.
And you can see there's several there moving slowly along the sky with tales of fire, as some listeners to BBC Radio have been describing tonight, including one that was speaking to Radio 5 Live. Brian Guthrie described a meteor that he saw in central Scotland.
So I was just sitting watching TV, and I have a side window in my front room, and was suddenly aware of this bright colours scorching across the sky. Initially you would think it was like very large fireworks because it was so colourful, and I immediately sort of got out of my chair, looked out the window, saw it heading in a westerly direction, and ran to the back of the house, to the kitchen, left the light off so I could watch this, and it became self-evident it was something pretty large breaking up in the atmosphere. I've seen shooting stars and meteor showers before, but this was much larger and much more colourful.
Absolutely, you caught me watching it there. It's absolutely incredible stuff, isn't it? And do keep your images and stories and sightings coming into the BBC. Nina Ridge has got the weather.
Several people in Cape Coral reported seeing strange lights in the sky, and since then more witnesses have contacted Fox 4, claiming they also saw these UFOs. Tonight, we have new video of these mysterious lights that some say are truly out of this world.
Over there. So many.
Witnesses now claiming they saw strange lights in the skies of southwest Florida on 2 separate occasions in 2 different locations.
He said, come here quick, you've got to see this, bring your camera.
Gwen McDaniels and her husband saw the lights last Friday outside of their Fort Myers home just after dark.
There must have been, I want to say 20, maybe there were 15, but it was a whole slew of them in an absolutely straight line. And they were gliding, just like this, gliding, just like this, gliding smoothly. And then they turned and went south down 41.
McDaniels grabbed her Android and snapped a couple of photos, but for some reason the pictures didn't come out. But last Wednesday, Stephanie Ramos did capture images of something she calls extraordinary.
Where are the other ones? Are the other ones
Look,
gone?
that's got to be on the news.
My husband and his brother come busting through the door and said there were UFOs outside.
Ramos was visiting her family on Fort Myers Beach, her iPhone recording video of these lights at the southern end of Estero Boulevard.
We just stood on the beach and watched those 3 lights distance themselves farther and farther away and basically just kind of vanish.
The video shows 3 lights in the sky above the housetops in a triangular pattern. Then 1 light disappears and the other 2 seem to float away into the night sky.
Oh my God.
8 members of the Ramos family witnessed the event. Both they and McDaniels are convinced they saw something from out of this world. So you're a religious woman?
Yes, I am.
So would you swear on the Bible that you actually saw this?
Absolutely. I would swear in the Bible.
Well, there you go. The Ramos family says they asked officials at Southwest Florida International Airport if there were any air traffic recordings of UFOs last Wednesday. They were told they'd have to file a formal report to request the audio transmissions. We'll, of course, follow up on this and let you know what happens. In the studio, Mike Mason, Fox 4 Near Corner.
Mysterious lights hovering in the skies across several parts of the country. This video is from Indianapolis of a strange formation that appeared this week. Now, people in Metro Detroit say they've seen something just like it. Last night, our newsroom and our Facebook page got several reports of strange lights in the skies over Metro Detroit. And tonight, Fox News' Ron Savage is on a mission to find out what they really are. Ron.
You know how we operate here. We do stories on talkers, and this is a talker. Everybody's talking about it. What are the lights in the sky? Mysterious lights in the sky. Many Metro Detroiters have been wondering, what am I seeing?
It wasn't quite as high as you would see. I've been watching the airplanes tonight, and it wasn't quite as high as them. And I mean, like I said, you could actually see the triangle shape of the object.
David Levy was outside Thursday night, 9:30 p.m. with friends in Flat Rock, and suddenly
we were outside, and up in the sky we saw a triangle-shaped light with, or a triangle-shaped object with about 5 lights flashing, heading north.
Who saw it first, a friend or did
I did, yes.
Yeah, what'd you say?
I asked people, what do you think that is? And everybody was like, I don't know. And then later on at night, I found out that people had been seeing this object all over.
In fact, our Fox 2 Facebook page has been blowing up with hundreds of posts, people seeing lights like Lisa. She writes, I seen some in Southgate, but thought it was fireworks and weird for January. Nick writes, I assumed they were planes. They were flying in the same direction. I watched them for about 10 minutes, and I counted 4 or 5 of them. I'm over in St. Clair Shores. Mario writes, I seen it in East Point, off 9 Mile. It was something crazy. And Sean writes, I was the one who called into the Fox 2 newsroom and first broke this story. They were black triangle-shaped objects making circles over West Bloomfield and Farmington Hills. There was no noise, and they had bright lights. I'm not making this up, and I know somebody else saw these things. These lights are all over YouTube. The original poster says they were shot in Miami this week. And these lights were said to be shot in Indianapolis. Is this similar to what David saw in Flat Rock?
This kind of looks like it's staying in one spot, but that's exactly what it looked like, except there was 5 of them.
5 lights.
5 lights.
William Konkoleski of the Michigan Mutual UFO Network has also been taking calls from people who see lights at night all across Metro Detroit.
It's very possible that people are seeing military aircraft that they haven't notified us about yet, like the spy planes or also the stealth aircraft that have been flying on our skies now for a few years. It's well known that they were testing these aircraft well before they notified people that they even existed. Now, on top of all that, we have unmanned drones up in the sky, and those things really look strange, especially for somebody that has no idea what they could even be.
And certainly some people may be skeptical when they hear that somebody's reporting lights in the sky, but perhaps there is a logical explanation for some of these light displays. They've been reported all over the country and all around the calendar, all year round. It doesn't seem to be a particular time of the year when they're reported more so than others. And across Michigan and Metro Detroit, we're getting reports, and our Facebook page has been blowing up, as you know, recently, Huel, with a lot of people reporting these lights.
Ron, for years, the Air Force conducted an investigation of so-called UFOs. They found no official proof. Any word from the feds tonight about those strange lights?
Well, you wonder if the military's involved, as one of our UFO experts was curious there and mentioned. We did put some calls into Selfridge, the FAA. We didn't get any reaction. Could be a logical explanation for some of these light displays. I'll tell you this, there's no full moon right now, but we're getting an awful lot of reports of lights in the sky, Huel.
Certainly not a weather balloon, Ron. All right, thank you.
That's right.
A mysterious occurrence has taken place near the border between Israel and Lebanon. An illuminated object emerged in the night sky and began to spiral for several minutes, attracting thousands of puzzled onlookers. A similar sight was witnessed in Norway in 2009 and turned out to be a failed missile launch. While most experts believe that's what was seen over Israel, despite some people convinced of extraterrestrial activity.
Look at that.
You know what, Larry? What? Oh, look at it. It's going up.
Oh my gosh! What the heck is that?
Oh, that is just weird. What is that? Look, they joined.
Oh my gosh.
You get this on camera?
Oh, yes.
I'm glad you guys have seen this. I think I'd be going there.
Oh my god, but look, it's like floating. This is like stuff that they show in the UFO stuff.
Yeah.
And I believe in all of that. Oh my god, look how it's just floating.
Well, it's weird how it was one ball and that split into 3. Yeah.
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Oh, look how it's just floating.
But then, look, it goes to, they kind of gravitate towards each other.
Oh my god. Angelina, are you watching this?
Yeah. They're almost even now. Oh, one went out.
Oh my gosh.
2 went. Okay, that was just weird.
Drew, turn your lights off. Drew, turn your lights off. Okay, there's 3 big-ass lights in the sky right now. They're just floating. They're not moving. They're not doing shit. They're just posting. Dude, I wish you can see it better. Can you see it really good on your phone, Brian? No, dude, I can't see nothing. You can see, like, faint lights on my phone.
You get closer to it.
Yeah, we better.
Here, over here.
Well, not just, we should get in the car.
Yeah, the car.
All 3 of them?
Yep. Oh my god, alien!
We just got off the freeway at 74 South in Lake Elsinore, California. These lights that just fucking disappeared into the fog. But no, I got them on tape.
maintain friendships, enhancing the friendships they have. I'm very immersed in it, so is my 14-year-old daughter, Facebook and Twitter, and that's the way that we stay connected with extended family far away. I think it's a great way
now,
to
I don't like
enhance
this word
relationships.
empower. I just think that's one of these like dopey words that people would throw around. But again, I don't go on Facebook. I don't know what your people are doing. How does it empower somebody to go on it? Say you're 13, you go on a Facebook. How does that empower the 13-year-old?
Well, first of all, so many kids are almost shut-ins nowadays. Remember, in our day, when we wanted to go have a play date, we'd walk out the door and go knock on somebody else's door. Today, you've got to arrange it through the mother. Somebody's got to drive you. It's got to be a play date. Well, now you can get a group of kids who can be talking online, exchanging homework information, and feeling connected to the school culture. And not just for adolescents.
I see all those points.
Está formando un triángulo.
Son 3.
Gigante. José fue cuidado. Oh, la weá brígida, weón, la cagó, ¿cierto?
Impresionante.
¿Por qué será esa weá?
Es impresionante. Esto me mató.
Eso es una nave gigante, mi amor, mira.
Mira cómo se unieron ahora, ¿cacho?
Sí, cacho. Sí, estoy creando toda la weá. No, cuidado con tu pelo. ¿A cuánto está hoy día? Oh, son 4, mira, ¿cuánto se separan? Son 4, ¿no es?
Mi viejo Beto se muere. Oh. ¿Estás grabando?
Sí. Oh, no.
Oh, eso es impresionante.
Madre, la weá acuática.
Escúchame, ¿por qué no le hablas al vecino arriba?
No, tranquilo, aquí te quiero. Por eso estos weas vienen para acá, weón.
Sí, va que sí.
Mi amor, mira acá allá. ¿Cómo tan lentita, weón? ¿Hay gente mirando?
No sé si.
Oh, ahora está acuática esa weá. ¿Cachai la weá que sea en el cielo? Mira. ¿Qué weá esa weá? No son aviones, weón. Mira esas dos como están ahí, mira.
Ellos están grabando.
¿Abajo?
Están grabando.
¿A dónde?
Allá donde se los hombres.
Cuática la weá. Ya, mi amor, ahí nomás, ¿para qué dice que tiene?
Coche, mira, oh, son 4 naves, culiadas, pues mira, 1, 2, 3. No, esta weá está superando todos los márgenes, ¿sí o no? Yo sé qué hace ahí arriba, weón.
Brígido, brígido.
Puta la cámara, ah.
Llámala a mi papá.
Ándale, mala. ¿Cacha apareció otra más? Oh, andan como 5. Mira, Josefa.
Oh, esa weá son pero como cuáticos.
Son Foo Fighters, ¿sí? Esa weá, Foo Fighters. Mira, cacha, mira, cacha, mira, cacha, mira, 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 mira.
Mira cómo se unen.
Oh. Son caletas, mira, 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 son caletas, weón, mira, ¿cachai? ¿Cómo hacen un círculo? ¿Total lo que me a ir en internet o no?
Sí.
¿Está grabando abajo así?
Sí.
Mira cómo hacen. Oh, mira, mira, mira. Oh, son muchos, weón.
Continúa los funerales. Familiares y amigos se despidieron de James McNally, de 6 años, fanático de los juegos electrónicos interactivos, pero no de la ropa, tomando pantalones.
Mira, hay una gigante y alrededor hay más chicas.
Puta, ¿por qué se desenfoca la weá?
A mysterious.
Here's a bit of a mystery now. An investigation underway into what a pilot saw flying only 3 miles from one of the world's busiest airports. A jumbo jet pilot claiming to see a black drone hovering outside his cockpit window as he was landing at JFK here in New York. Rick Leventhal is on that story live in our studio. This is pretty unusual.
It is indeed, Bill. In fact, the New York Post quotes one investigator saying in all his years at the airport, he can't remember anything like this. And investigators say even if it turns out to just be a hobbyist toy plane, it still raises serious concerns. It happened at 1:15 yesterday afternoon. The pilot of an Alitalia jetliner spotting what he described as a black drone unmanned aircraft, hovering just 200 feet from his jet on his final approach to runway 31 right. According to the FAA, which is investigating, the pilot reported the sighting about 4 to 5 miles west of the airport at an altitude of roughly 1,500 feet, saying it looked like a, quote, black drone about 1 meter square with helicopter rotors on the corners. The aircraft did not take evasive action and landed safely, Bill.
Wow, so do investigators believe there was some sort of sinister motivation here at work, or do they know?
Well, it's possible, but, you know, any flying object could pose a danger to aircraft. We've seen what bird strikes can do. A drone could cause problems if it were sucked into an engine. The FAA referred us to its Model Aircraft Operating Standards, written back in 1981. It allows for flying remote-controlled airplanes recreationally, but only up to 400 feet and within sight of the operator, and anyone flying a craft within 3 miles of an airport is required to notify the tower or FAA. The New York Post reports the Joint Terrorism Task Force is assisting with the investigation, trying to determine exactly what the object was, who owns it, and what their motivations were for flying it in the approach path of incoming jets. Now, based on conversations that I've had this morning with local and federal law enforcement, it doesn't appear to be terrorism-related, Bill, but we're going to have to wait a little while to find out for sure.
And you heard from the FAA already today. They're looking into it. We'll see what comes of it.
Turn now to that spooky sight in the sky for the pilot of a jumbo jet coming in for a landing at New York's JFK Airport. He says he saw a drone out of his cockpit window. The FAA is now investigating. And ABC's John Muller is here with the latest. Good morning, John.
Good morning, George. The mystified pilot described seeing a small black drone with helicopter rotors strangely close to his plane. Who it belongs to runs the range from hobbyist to potential terrorist. This morning, the preliminary investigation includes the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Listen to this cockpit audio recording as a pilot on an Alitalia flight literally can't believe what he's seeing.
So what did you say? We saw a drone aircraft.
The Alitalia flight was on its final approach to JFK International Airport Monday afternoon when the pilot saw the unidentified object.
Alitalia, what altitude did you see that aircraft? About 1,500.
The pilot did not take evasive action and the flight landed safely. Air traffic control shared their information with other incoming flights.
Report of a drone aircraft, 5-mile final, 1,500 feet. Use caution, runway 31 right, clear to land.
Clear to land, we'll look at the drone. We're slowing to 180 knots, JetBlue 906.
Drones are small, unmanned, remote-controlled flying objects. Their non-military use is increasing as new technology makes them applicable for reconnaissance and surveillance. The FAA is investigating the incident. Of course, even if the drone belongs to a hobbyist, that doesn't make it any less dangerous to an aircraft that it collides with. Now, experts say drones will eventually become a day-to-day part of life, used in weather and traffic reports, even for finding lost dogs and cats. But they certainly can't be flying this close to commercial jets. George?
Boy, that is the point. It's amazing it got that close.
It's not a bird.
Keep going up and up and up.
It's not a plane.
Here it's flipping around.
Even this aviation expert is mystified.
I can't identify it.
We first learned about these strange sightings when this metro area man, who does not want to be identified, brought us his home video.
You're going to see a little burst of fire right there, kind of a thruster.
He captured the images on his digital camera from a hilltop in Federal Heights, looking south towards downtown Denver.
Mile High is right about here.
He says the flying objects appear around noon or 1 p.m. at least a couple of times a week.
You're going to see it come in from the top, do a little loopy-doop.
The strangest part is they are flying too fast to see with the naked eye. This is the video in real time.
Poof, see it? That was it.
But if you slow it down frame by frame, it's there. We altered the color contrast to help you see it. Here's another one in real time. This is what it looks like slowed down.
We wanted to verify that the video we saw was legit, so our photojournalist came out here with his camera. He set up in the same spot on 84th and Federal, and he shot video from just before noon until just after 1.
And when we slowed down our photographer's video, we saw this flying object.
I would consider myself an expert.
Aviation expert Steve Cowell is a former commercial pilot, instructor, and FAA accident prevention counselor.
It's very strange.
He thought he would have a logical explanation until he watched the video.
That is not an airplane. That is not a helicopter. Those are not birds. I can't identify it.
Cowell told us he knows of no aircraft that flies as fast.
Because of the speed of the object, most people, I think, would miss it.
Cowell did say there is one other possibility.
Perhaps there's some sort of debris that's being raised up by some of the atmospheric winds.
But in his professional opinion,
as it fits the definition, it's an unidentified flying object.
The FAA tracks all air traffic in Colorado and across the country. The FAA sent us a statement saying, "We've checked with air traffic control and no one has had any reports of the activity you describe, nor have any of our employees observed anything of this nature either visually or on their radar displays." The North American Aerospace Defense Command is located in Colorado Springs. It keeps an eye on the skies in case of an air attack against the U.S. NORAD sent us this statement. Our command center reviewed their records and they did not have any noted air activity in the Denver area during the times you indicated.
Brand new information today raising new questions about possible contacts with UFOs. A top secret document filed by the FBI in 1949 tells how 3 different men each reported seeing a UFO breaking up in midair. The document reveals that they were miles apart at the time, and each one of them say they saw the UFO explode over the mountains in Utah. Here now, Dr. Lynn Kitai, the executive producer of the Phoenix Lights Network, to tell us more. Doctor, what do you make of this?
Actually, it's interesting that this would go viral. Supposedly, it's been on the internet since available to the public since 1977. And I spoke with Dr. Bruce Maccabee, who is a former Navy optical physicist and a renowned UFO investigator who actually has done much research on the FBI files. He has a book, UFOs Connection. And to quote him, that we have been visited by advanced technology that's gracing our skies worldwide, not only for decades, as this would say, but also for centuries.
Well, and Doctor, I mean, when you look at some of the material that's contained in this FBI file, I mean, they took it seriously. At the time, they sent this to the director of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, and there were a lot of folks who thought there was something to this. Now, that's a legitimate agency. Is there more to this?
Exactly, and it did give it credibility, and actually sharing what Dr. Bruce Maccabee has investigated himself over the decades. And at the time, to quote, the Air Force had stated that nothing was flying in the air, but at this time they did go to Hoover. There was a Project Grudge and Sign and Snowbird, and the only public study at the time was Project Blue Book, which was closed in 1969 with the statement that UFOs are not a threat to national security. Well, how did they know that unless they were studying it? And as we see in the mass sighting that happened in Arizona in 1997 called the Phoenix Lights, there were thousands of people statewide for many hours that actually saw a mile to 2 mile wide craft traverse the entire state. And that still has not been explained.
Well, Doctor, it's certainly an interesting topic. Folks will want to dig into these documents. They can find them online. Thank you so much for your time today, Dr. Lynn Kitai.
UFO. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Fucking strange, man. Hell. Holy shit.
Here's one for Adelaide's very own X-Files. A Broadview businesswoman's captured eerie video, which she says proves we're not alone.
Food technologist Cheryl Lee couldn't believe what she saw from her Broadview backyard.
There was a flashing disc and it was oscillating and it was silver.
She's convinced the images she captured on video are extraterrestrial.
They're UFOs because they're not from this world. You can see all of where it's moving and they come out and they spin around and there's hundreds of them.
She slowed down the video on her computer and says it's clear the flying objects are not birds.
There's two discs. They seem to be going along at the same speed, and then when they clip or hit each other, they reverse. That is classic UFO. These two discs look as if they're on their sides.
Cheryl just wants people to keep an open mind.
Whatever it is, I want a silver one.
Peter Caldecott, 7 News.
¡Oh! ¡Conche tu madre, mi amor! ¿Qué es esa weá? ¡Oh, conche tu madre! ¡Tengo miedo! ¡Oh, conche tu madre, weón!
Tiene formación triangular ahora.
¡Oh, mamá, llámame! Así, mamá, llámame. Conche tu madre, mamá, llámame. ¡Oh! ¡Oh, conche tu madre, weón! Mi amor, no lo estáis grabando. ¡Oh, conche tu madre, weón! ¡Oh! Weón, pero mi amor no se está grabando.
¿Qué? La weá se fueron, se salieron del foco.
¡Oh! ¡Conche tu madre, loco! ¡Conche tu madre!
¿Se te paran los pelos?
Tengo todos los pelos parados. ¡Conche tu madre, loco! ¡Qué pucha!
No los veo.
Ahí están, no sé si se ven.
Se dividieron en dos.
Sí, weón. ¡Oh, conche tu madre, weón! ¡No, puta!
Vienen para acá.
वो जगह से वो आगे नहीं आ रहा है वो जगह से आगे नहीं हो रहा
फोटो लेके जूम करना क्या है देखना
वीडियो है वीडियो ले
ये छोटे कुछ है
वो रॉकेट में पीछे आग लगी है
बोल क्या है
रॉकेट में आग लगी है
वो क्या है
वही चाय भी आया जिससे चाय आसमान में अजूबा
वो क्या है
आसमान में अजूबा क्या जूम करके आदमी का फोटो ले रहे क्या
sounds like something out of a movie. UFO encounters here on Earth.
But that's exactly what firefighters are now training for.
Only on ABC 15, Christopher Stein shows us the disaster guide you'll be talking about.
Sightings like the Phoenix Lights have generated questions and made believers out of skeptics. And this 600-page guide may lend credibility to UFOs. It's the Fire Officer's Guide to Disaster Control and said to be found in firehouses across the U.S. The book covers everything from fires to floods, but it's chapter 13 that takes an unusual twist in firefighting techniques titled Enemy Attack and UFO Potential.
It would not be remiss to give some thought to the part that fire departments might play in the event of the unexpected arrival of UFOs in their communities.
The book, written by 2 retired firefighters, addresses what first responders could encounter.
You may have engine trouble upon approaching the scene, and radio contact could be lost with your dispatcher. If at night your headlight could go out, the city could be blacked out, and your portable generators may malfunction.
No, this took me by surprise.
Believers like Jim Mann see the book as an opportunity.
This is a real phenomena that we should deal with. We should deal with seriously.
So, is it for training purposes, or is it enough to warrant a UFO education red alert?
This is something that could really happen in our lifetime.
It even asks, how do you treat injured aliens? Are first responders aware of the potential physical injuries?
Some fire chiefs have little confidence in disaster plans, especially those dealing with UFOs or enemy attack.
We contacted several fire agencies regarding this book, and some even called us. However, not one admitted to using it for training, although some are aware it exists.
Yeah, you know what, Chris? It just shows you that serious professional people are starting to take this whole subject of UFOs and ETs. They're starting to take this seriously.
Jim Mann investigates sightings and encounters for the mutual UFO network known as MUFON.
This is a real threat to this planet.
MUFON has its own investigative guide seen here publicly for the first time.
And I don't think we're crackpots. I think that we're just people that want to be aware of what's going on. We don't know where we came from. We don't know where we're going.
And one of the authors of this book says many people miss the point regarding that chapter in UFOs, saying previously, quote, whether they exist or not is not the issue. It's the perceived existence which creates the potential for panic, injury, and even death.
А мы тем временем переносимся в Хакасию, где 2 школьницам удалось сделать невероятные снимки. Они уверены, что успели запечатлеть летающую тарелку.
Она появилась и исчезла очень быстро, говорят девочки. Но в том, что это было именно НЛО, очевидцы нисколько не сомневаются.
Снимки были сделаны во время прогулки по городу на мобильный телефон. По приходу домой они тут же были скопированы на более мощный носитель и увеличены в размерах. Не то, чтобы не верила своим глазам, говорит одна из очевидец Соня Кудрявцева, но просто хотелось рассмотреть объект подробнее и еще раз все же убедиться, что ничего не показалось.
Ну, когда мы ее увидели, мы обалдели.
тарелку, что она как бы была такого цвета металла.
Активное участие в редактировании снимков приняли родители. Тоже хотелось разглядеть, что попало в объектив их дочери и насколько крупным был пролетавший почти бесшумно предмет. Но форма объекта была такой, какой на планете Земля летательным аппаратам еще не придают, и что в земной цивилизации принято называть летающей тарелкой.
Мы увидели там и жерла, увидели движение горячего воздуха. Вот. А когда сделали тепловую обработку, то в нижней части тарелки обратили внимание, что там, наверное, где-то 7 или 8 таких окошечек идет.
На том самом месте, над которым пролетал объект в форме тарелки, возможно, есть еще очевидцы, рассказывает автор снимков, а может быть и нет. Предмет появился и исчез неожиданно. В поле зрения находился считанные секунды и практически беззвучно. В Абазе и ее окрестностях неопознанные летающие объекты замечали и раньше. Если раньше фактов увиденному предоставить не могли, то теперь есть доказательная база в количестве 3 снимков. Их отправят специалистам. Может, уфологи объяснят, что же все-таки пролетала над окраиной Абазы в марте месяце 2013 года.
Смотри, сколько их. Я же ведь вам сказал, что я обязательно их здесь найду. Вот это да, привязка к местности. Вот это удача. Фу. Фу. Для Вадима Александровича Черноброва. Подарок. Подождите, ребята, подождите. Да что такое-то? Что за... Где? Где?
Слева, и погасло. Мишени какие-нибудь?
Да какие мишени? Смотри, сколько висит.
Там полигон, господи.
И чего? Смотри, сколько висит.
Полигон, по-моему, должен быть здесь вот где-то. Это не полигон. Ну что, воздух что-то.
Это да. Четкая форма. Камера не берет больше.
Вон летит с левой стороны. Видишь?
Вон, вижу, ага. Сейчас. Блин.
Оп.
Ё-мазай, опять я не поймал.
Да, тут что-то слишком быстро летает.
Валентинович, я приближаю, тут очень и очень четкие формы вырисовываются.
Ты левый-то снял?
Нет. Не улетай. Не улетай.
Они удаляются.
Астраханская область, Селитрёная. Какое сегодня число?
25.
25 апреля. Вот это удача. У меня аж руки трясутся. Опаньки!
honest with the public about UFOs? A panel of 6 former members of Congress is getting an earful in Washington this week about UFO incidents and government secrecy.
The Citizens Disclosure hearing isn't an actual congressional proceeding. It just looks like one, but its backers hope it generates enough attention to force U.S. officials to disclose whatever they might know about UFO mysteries.
George Knapp of the I-Team says there's at least one big surprise coming this week.
Yeah, it's a good one, too. People tend to forget that back in the 1960s, there were 2 congressional hearings into the UFO question. Future President Gerald Ford was a driving force behind the hearings. All this week, a panel of former members of Congress is hearing from military and intelligence officials, as well as historians and scientists, about all aspects of the UFO enigma. The organizers hope the citizens' hearing on disclosure adds an element of legitimacy to the UFO discussion and perhaps leads to the lifting of what they call the veil of secrecy.
Because there is no doubt we are being visited.
Scientist and explorer Dr. Edgar Mitchell, born coincidentally in the UFO hotspot of Roswell, New Mexico, started calling for the disclosure of government UFO files back in the mid-90s. One of his first interviews on the subject was with the I-Team. As the 6th man to walk on the moon, he's an American icon with extensive contacts in the government who've convinced him a UFO cover-up is real. Mitchell says it's time for full disclosure.
And I call upon our government to open up like other governments have, and you will hear about that this morning. Like the Belgians have, the French have, the Brazilians have, the Argentines, the Mexicans have all released their files. It's about time now that we do the same thing.
Mitchell will be one of several heavyweight witnesses who will testify at this week's 5-day UFO disclosure event in Washington. A panel of 6 former members of Congress will hear from and question 40 witnesses, including Paul Hellyer, who was the Minister of Defense for Canada and who's had his own UFO sighting. Hellyer says there's no question the U.S. has withheld information about UFOs from the public and from its allies.
To make a plea for full disclosure, because the implications of what has been going on secretly in the last 50 or 60 years are really profound, and most people haven't any idea how important the revelations could be to their future as a species.
One focus of the citizens' hearing will be recent admissions by other governments that there have been secret but ongoing UFO studies by military and intel agencies all over the world. Nick Pope was, for years, the UFO point man for Britain's Ministry of Defense and will testify about the release of his country's once secret files. Canadian nuclear physicist Stanton Friedman will tell the panel about military studies of UFO incidents and attempts to suppress the information, including the infamous Roswell UFO crash case.
The U.S. government has denied the truth to the American people about the ET presence. That's a big deal. It's no longer justified. And so the purpose of this hearing is nothing less than disclosure.
We're going to conduct a citizen hearing on disclosure.
Stephen Bassett, the only UFO lobbyist on Capitol Hill, organized this hearing, hired for the panel former members of Congress who had not taken public positions on the UFO topic, and chose the National Press Club to house the event so that official Washington would take notice. Congress held 2 hearings on UFOs back in the 60s, but the subject has seemed politically toxic since then. Bassett thinks that's not an accident.
The real problem is this, I've said many times. The military intelligence complex has yanked the issue out from under the political leaders. They don't brief them anymore. They don't give them the information, and that's true across the board of many issues.
Tuesday's session focused on one of the most disturbing angles, the intrusion of UFOs over nuclear bases. Former military men stationed at Bentwaters nuke base in England and at missile bases near the Canadian border described chilling incidents in which unknown craft interfered with the launch codes of atomic weapons. Documents squeezed out of the Pentagon show the military long ago considered UFOs to be serious business, but later denied having any interest in the subject.
I've got probably a few more months to make it before my kidneys shut down.
Still to come, surprise testimony from a mystery witness, the deathbed confession of an intelligence officer who worked at secret facilities in Nevada. Only a handful of people even know who he is, but the story he will tell is startling. Ed Mitchell, for one, urges an end to secrecy.
There seems to have been, over the last 50 years at least, and more, a great deal of secrecy surrounding the so-called UFO event. It's a very complex subject. We're not dealing with something very simple here.
The citizens' hearing continues all week, and for a small fee, you can watch the whole thing online. We have a link on our website, along with a background report on this hearing, the full schedule of witnesses, along with a lot of other UFO-related material, including a couple of stories we've reported over the years.
The heck is that? Mira, ahí arriba, mira. ¿Eso qué es? ¿Pero qué tipo de avión es? Can't even hear it. ¿No se oye, güey? Mira. The hell kind of plane is that? ¿Silenciosa? Sí, no se oye nada. It's got a huge wingspan. No idea what the heck that is. Like a UFO.
Un investigador afirma que hay objetos extraños sobrevolando la central de Atucha. Dice que la zona donde está la central nuclear se ha convertido en un área de fenómenos continuos en Atucha. Estos fenómenos, ¿esos son verdaderamente ovnis?
Hermoso,
Ahí está. Impulsa.
Es el láser, Tiene que ir con el otro. Es el láser,
A ver, ponelo con el láser, a ver.
Es la madrugada, son las 5:30. Los investigadores encuentran en el cielo lo que venían buscando hace largo tiempo. Preste muchísima atención a las imágenes. Misteriosos objetos luminosos sobrevuelan la zona de la central nuclear de Atucha. Los expertos intentan con láser realizar una marcación de los objetos desconocidos de gran magnitud, pero estos reaccionan devolviendo una luz más intensa. 12 anomalías puras se dan en un lapso de pocos minutos. La sorpresa es mayúscula. Miles de preguntas surgen al instante. ¿Son ovnis? ¿Tan claros se pueden ver? Las respuestas intentan develar.
Bueno, lo que hemos visto concretamente es un fenómeno que se denomina UFO Flash en el ámbito ufológico nacional e internacional. Son fenómenos que se ven globalmente. Son objetos que producen un flash del tipo fotográfico, pero de una apertura muy grande en el cielo. Y uno va viendo un flash que se va prendiendo, apagando, con una orbitación que puede ir de arco a arco inclusive. A veces estos objetos producen detenciones y pueden llegar a estar pulsando por horas en un sitio determinado, ir en formaciones de a dos. O sea, son un montón las anomalías que produce este tipo de fenómeno.
Tele 9 fue hasta el punto elegido, ubicado al norte de la ciudad de Buenos Aires, a unos 100 kilómetros de distancia. Decidimos ingresar a la zona rural, donde se evidencian esta serie de misteriosos fenómenos. Estamos ubicados en el lugar donde los investigadores realizaron el avistaje de ovnis, a metros nada más de la central nuclear de Atucha. Esta es una zona de muchas chacras rurales. Aquí los vecinos comentan lo que ven, pero lo toman con naturalidad. Dicen que es continuo el hecho de ver luces en el cielo, de esto que los investigadores llaman fenómenos continuos sin explicación. El horario es un horario en especial. Hablan de que todo esto sucede entre las 5 y las 7 de la mañana. En esas 2 horas se logra ver los ovnis.
Sí, mi sobrina, que suele venir bastante, ella me dijo haber visto a veces como luces o estrellas fugaces, que sí le llamaban la atención por su movimiento. Ella me lo describió como estrellas fugaces, como luces muy especiales que le llamaban la atención. Que no me hizo el comentario porque acá nuestro cielo es tan limpio y se ven cosas, y fue todo lo que me dijo.
Era como algo extraño, como una luz alargada con movimiento medio no asimilable a ninguna cosa así, digamos, que uno pudiera decir un avión, un helicóptero, no. Y el mismo día, o al día siguiente, no estoy seguro, salió que lo habían visto, que algo se había visto en Chivilcoy.
¿Usted lo vio durante mucho tiempo? ¿Fue esto? ¿En qué horario?
Estábamos haciendo una pizza, que tenía esos hornitos de hacer pizza, y en el tiempo que estuvo serán 20 minutos por lo menos, o tal vez un poquito más, pero no mucho más. Algo bastante extraño. Una luz media alargada que ella como que estaba pivoteando, dando vueltas.
Los ufólogos intentan comprender y registrar todo lo que observan. Sienten que lo sucedido está muy lejos de la ovnilogía tradicional.
Tuvimos prácticamente 2 horas de actividad. En la última hora fue mucho más esporádico el fenómeno como se daba, pero una hora primaria entre las 5 y las 6 de la mañana, que fue el momento, digamos, más activo, sumado un montón de fenómenos asociados que hubo, pero de una velocidad imposible de ser registrados de alguna manera. Los pulsos luminosos o estos flashes se los ha visto permanentemente siguiendo precisamente los pasos de la estación espacial, o se los ve siguiendo a satélites, o pulsando de a 2, de a 3 en diferentes puntos del cielo. Tienen siempre precisiones que para nosotros son muy interesantes.
Quienes transitan por esta ruta a la noche, que es la que une la localidad de Lima con Atucha, han sido testigos de estos objetos pulsantes que sin dudas les ha llamado la atención. Muchos de los que circulan por aquí a la noche han parado en la ruta, se han bajado y han observado esta luz en el cielo que les ha causado mucha intriga. Cuentan algunos vecinos de uno en particular que sacó su linterna y comenzó a realizar señales tratando de iluminarlos. Allí se encontró con que este fenómeno le refractaba la luz.
En el caso de Atucha, lo interesante fue que nosotros llevamos láseres de 50 miliwatts verdes, que son láseres astronómicos para marcación, y lo utilizamos más que nada como un punto referencial que ayudara al campo estelar para que se viera cómo ese objeto iba moviéndose en relación a todo el campo estelar.
Este tipo de manifestaciones suceden a menudo en una zona ideal para mostrarse. Los especialistas hablan de que los fenómenos ovni que vemos tienen un comportamiento inteligente por su desplazamiento y por la respuesta que presentan ante los estímulos. En tanto, los vecinos lo observan como un fenómeno paranormal que no modifica sus vidas, aunque sea un lindo llamador para mirar el cielo cada tanto.
Ayer le presentamos en Tele9 imágenes de un objeto volador no identificado en los alrededores de la central nuclear de Atucha. De acuerdo a los estudiosos del tema, este tipo de avistajes es frecuente en varios puntos de nuestro país. Hoy veremos más documentos fílmicos para los que la ciencia está buscando respuestas.
Anomalías severas con comportamiento inteligente. Así denominan los ufólogos a este fenómeno registrado en 2 ocasiones en Atucha. OVNIs, objetos voladores no identificados, que con flashes de luz parecían responder a los rayos láser dirigidos hacia ellos desde la Tierra. Estas percepciones de marzo último se suman a una larga lista de avistajes en nuestro país.
Áreas como Atucha, determinadas bases militares, aeropuertos, ese tipo de lugares siempre son polaridades para el fenómeno ovni. Siempre lo son. No podemos determinar exactamente por qué, pero son lugares que a criterio de los viejos investigadores eran determinados como sitios estratégicos para la visualización de objetos.
Pero estos fenómenos no solo se registran de noche. Vean sino lo que sucedía en la base aérea de Morón el 1 de mayo durante una exhibición de aviones. Detrás de la estela de humo fue posible divisar anillos luminosos.
¡Ay, Dios mío! ¡Ay, no,
Es un anillo, loco, el anillo, parece.
Cuando el rastro de gases de los motores desapareció, los anillos seguían allí, ahora más grandes y en movimiento. Durante 1 año y medio, esa zona también fue estudiada por los ufólogos, quienes aseguran haber asistido a complejas manifestaciones.
Y de repente emitió un haz luminoso a tierra, una especie de rayo, por decirlo de alguna manera, que en el momento que eso toca, lo que sería desde donde lo emitió a tierra, se produjo un fenómeno que lo conocemos los investigadores como factor Oz, o que es ausencia total de sonido, es decir, todo se detuvo de alguna manera, y delante nuestro se produjeron una serie de rayos luminosos, como si fueran unas cuadrículas láser, un fenómeno realmente impresionante para un área como la que estábamos, totalmente rural, donde no había ningún tipo de tecnología ni nada trabajando en el área que pudiera generar eso.
Estas imágenes fueron registradas en Buenos Aires el 22 de junio de 2009. Muestran un punto en el cielo al que luego se suma otro y otro más, hasta formar lo que técnicamente denominan una flotilla.
En estos últimos años, algunas listas y algunos trabajos de investigación en materia de porcentajes han indicado que la mayor cantidad de avistamientos se han dado precisamente en áreas urbanas, incluyendo Capital Federal inclusive, o sea, aunque parezca lo contrario de lo que era.
Algunos avistajes también parecen repetirse en el tiempo. Este objeto geométrico fue divisado el 6 de marzo de 2001. Este, muy similar al anterior, es del 9 de febrero de 2002. Y este, idéntico a los otros, es del 27 de marzo de 2009.
En una franja horaria que va entre la 1:30 y las 4:30 de la tarde, es donde he tenido oportunidad, por lo menos en lo que es 2008, 2009 y parte del 2010, de registrar objetos realmente impresionantes a gran altitud, pero que tienen particularidades muy especiales, a los que técnicamente los denominamos ovnis variables, porque son objetos que modifican su forma.
La reiteración no solo parece darse en el tiempo, también se producen manifestaciones simultáneas en distintos espacios. El 3 de abril, mientras cientos de turistas de todo el mundo acampaban en el camino del Inca, se pudo divisar un ovni de forma ovoide. Al mismo tiempo, los ufólogos sumaban misterio en el cielo de Argentina.
Tele 9 estuvo en la zona de Atucha, un lugar donde videos y testimonios de lugareños hablan de la aparición de ovnis. ¿Qué dice la gente de este fenómeno que crece día a día?
Lo están diciendo desde hace ya bastante tiempo, que ven circunstancias raras sobre el cielo. Muchos van más allá y dicen, son ovnis. Suele ocurrir este fenómeno entre las 5 y las 7 de la mañana, cuando amanece en el lugar. Recorrimos el sitio, estuvimos allí, charlamos con los vecinos, pasaba esto.
El área donde se ven los fenómenos luminosos recorriendo el cielo está situada en cercanías a la central nuclear de Atucha, a unos 100 kilómetros de la capital federal. Y llegamos al lugar, atravesamos un camino de tierra, de un lado arbustos, plantas y un espejo de agua, y del otro lado, totalmente descampado y en el medio de la nada, una antena, como perdida. Este es el lugar, según los testigos, según los investigadores, donde aparecen los fenómenos que iluminan el cielo, y en esta hora precisamente, entre las 4 y las 6:30 de la mañana, casi al amanecer.
Es así, sí, es la verdad. Se ve todo.
¿Cuál es el tamaño? ¿Tiene una luz muy fuerte?
Como una pelotita así, una lucecita, un foco, supongamos.
Con una luz muy fuerte.
Ajá, sí, sí.
¿Se mueve?
Quedó paralizado un rato y después se desapareció.
Según los investigadores, las anomalías severas definidas como UFO Flash o pulsos orbitales tienen luz propia, se diferencian de las estrellas y no coinciden con el paso previsto de satélites. Atucha está ubicada a 11 kilómetros de Lima. Es la primera instalación nuclear en la Argentina destinada a la producción de energía eléctrica, junto con las bases militares y los aeropuertos. Son los lugares elegidos por estos fenómenos luminosos. ¿A qué hora lo ven, señora? ¿A qué hora se ven las luces?
La gente de acá del barrio dice 5 o 6 de la mañana.
¿A qué hora?
5 o 6 de la mañana. Dos veces por semana.
¿Cómo es la forma? ¿Cómo se mueve?
Redonda y se mueve zigzag. Va y viene, desaparece y viene. Este muchacho también lo vio todo acá, porque acá entramos temprano nosotros. Más la gente que vive en el barrio, en la ciudad.
¿Le llama la atención?
Llama la atención.
La central está cerca de Ibicuí, a orillas del río Paraná. Se emplaza en una zona boscosa, con lagunas, vías férreas y tendidos de alta tensión, favorables para la presencia de ovnis. ¿Le llama la atención eso?
Sí, nosotros estamos... Ni sabemos qué es eso.
¿Serán ovnis?
Y no sé, eso le dirán los que saben. Nosotros no sabemos nada.
Un misterio, ¿no?
Un misterio, usted lo dijo.
Estos objetos se mueven en forma de arco, en zigzag o en giros de 90 grados, acompañados en algunos casos con bolas luminosas. ¿Qué son? ¿De dónde vienen? ¿Para qué? Todas preguntas todavía sin respuestas que le quita el sueño a los investigadores. Otro misterio, ¿no?
Es un misterio.
¿Por qué acá? ¿Por qué? ¿De dónde vienen? ¿Cuál será ese mito, no? Si serán ovnis, si serán de otro planeta.
El día que lo agarren se sabrá la verdad, pero hasta ahora es todo un misterio, mitos y leyendas.
Ever look up at lights in the sky and wonder what the heck is that? You're not alone. Maybe we're not alone. UFO sightings in Canada doubled last year to just under 2,000 reports. Stephen Putticombe has the details from one place where something strange was spotted.
The 2012 UFO survey done out of Winnipeg, Manitoba has a surprising result. There was more sightings than ever before in the history of the survey. There were 1,981 UFO sightings reported in the country last year, about 5 a day. That's more than twice the number of reports in 2011 when there was 986. Now, the number of cases in 2012 completely eclipses all previous records for the highest reports in 1 year, which 1,004 in 2008.
Turns out that it was just a matter of that all the sources seem to reply that they had an increase in the number of UFO reports. So it's something across the board. People in Canada were actually looking up into the sky more often than in the previous year.
Ontario had more than 40% of sightings, but that's mainly because their population is so large. In 2012, about 7.5% of all UFO reports were judged to be unexplained. The percentage dropped from 11% the year before. Typical UFO sighting lasted about 15 minutes, and there were all kinds of shapes, sizes, and lights seen in the air, many of which could be explained. But again, 7.5% couldn't be. Right here on this very hill, about an hour outside of Halifax in January, 2 young people were sledding. They heard a strange sound in the sky, they looked up, and they saw a big orb with some flashing lights. They say it was a UFO. That UFO will be included in next year's survey. Stephen Putticombe, CBC News, Lake Charlotte, Nova Scotia.
È proprio là all'albero, vedi? Vediamo se riesco a zoomare. Ecco qua, quasi al centro fa vedere cose.
Era qui 3 ore.
Eccolo dov'è.
Dove?
Però
no.
Se zoomo mi trema la telecamera.
Non lo vedo.
Lo vedi? Non mi muovere papà, non mi muovere, io spostati. Se mi muovi.
Eccola!
Mi trema la telecamera, dai. Vediamo se riesco a fare. Guarda come si vede adesso.
Dove?
Eccolo, vedi?
Dove? Dove?
Nei rami a papà, vedi?
Nei rami.
Non lo so cos'è, ma
È un gufo.
è un gufo, sì. Guarda.
Aspetta qua.
Mi trema la telecamera, ma l'ho perso. Vediamo se lo riesco a prendere. Qua è là, sì.
L'hai preso?
Spostati! Io resto, lasciami.
Io vado dentro.
A real mystery in Quincy. Every night for nearly the past 2 weeks, residents have spotted a low-flying aircraft doing loops over the city. As Bill Shields shows us, the FAA knows what's going on, but the agency isn't telling.
It's frightening. It's more than weird. It's frightening.
That's what a lot of people in Quincy are feeling right now. For the past 10 days or so, an airplane has been buzzing around the city from dusk to dawn, flying low and slow. And it's not the state or local police.
I mean, it is strange. I don't know if they're looking for somebody or I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither. They won't tell us.
Yeah, they won't tell us either.
City Councilor Brian Palmucci has been inundated with calls from residents, but he could get little information from the FAA other than the flights are authorized.
Specifically asked, well, is it a law enforcement flight? Can we tell people that? He said, no, can't tell you that. And then I said, well, when folks call me, can I at least tell them that it's something they shouldn't worry about? It's something they shouldn't be concerned with. And he said, I can't tell you that.
We called the FAA and were told only that the aircraft is not a drone, it's manned. And we have to be very careful this time. Even the mayor has been kept in the dark, and he doesn't like it.
Here's a case where we're as frustrated as the constituent in the sense because we don't know the answer. We don't know what's going on.
Obviously, when the federal government wants to keep something quiet, they keep something very quiet. And in this case, they wouldn't even say how long these flights will continue. In Quincy, I'm Bill Shields, WBZ News.
And by the way, the aircraft is not flying when it's cloudy out, only on starlit nights.
Attends, je veux voir le petit bout là.
Attends, ça fait une séparation au milieu. Regarde comment que ça fait.
C'est une navette?
Recule.
Regarde. C'est bizarre ça,
C'est énorme.
C'est bizarre. C'est extraordinaire.
It's not a bird.
Keep going up and up and up.
It's not a plane.
Here it's flipping around.
Even this aviation expert is mystified.
I can't identify it.
We first learned about these strange sightings when this metro area man, who does not want to be identified, brought us his home video.
You're going to see a little burst of fire right there, kind of a thruster.
He captured the images on his digital camera from a hilltop in Federal Heights, looking south towards downtown Denver.
Mile High is right about here.
He says the flying objects appear around noon or 1 p.m. at least a couple of times a week.
You're going to see it come in from the top, do a little loopy-doop.
The strangest part is they are flying too fast to see with the naked eye. This is the video in real time.
Poof, see it? That was it.
But if you slow it down frame by frame, it's there. We altered the color contrast to help you see it. Here's another one in real time. This is what it looks like slowed down. We wanted to verify that the video we saw was legit, so our photojournalist came out here with his camera. He set up in the same spot on 84th and Federal, and he shot video from just before noon until just after 1. And when we slowed down our photographer's video, we saw this flying object.
I would consider myself an expert.
Aviation expert Steve Cowell is a former commercial pilot, instructor, and FAA accident prevention counselor.
It's very strange.
He thought he would have a logical explanation until he watched the video.
That is not an airplane. That is not a helicopter. Those are not birds. I can't identify it.
Cowell told us he knows of no aircraft that flies as fast.
Because of the speed of the object, most people, I think, would miss it.
Cowell did say there is one other possibility.
Perhaps there's some sort of debris that's being raised up by some of the atmospheric winds.
But in his professional opinion,
as it fits the definition, it's an unidentified flying object.
The FAA tracks all air traffic in Colorado and across the country. The FAA sent us a statement saying, "We've checked with air traffic control and no one has had any reports of the activity you describe, nor have any of our employees observed anything of this nature either visually or on their radar displays." The North American Aerospace Defense Command is located in Colorado Springs. It keeps an eye on the skies in case of an air attack against the U.S. NORAD sent us this statement. Our command center reviewed their records and they did not have any noted air activity in the Denver area during the times you indicated.
There's the smokestack.
The man who first brought this to our attention believes the UFOs are launching and landing near 56th and Clay in Denver. A map shows only homes in the area. So is it a UFO, a secret military test, floating debris? The answer is anything but clear. It appears to be a mystery in the sky, a mile high.
Joining me now is one of the legislators at that hearing, former senator and one-time presidential candidate, the one and only Mike Gravel, who represented the great state of Alaska for 22 years. Senator, welcome. What a pleasure it is to have you on Viewpoint.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. So let me start with the most obvious question. What got you involved in this particular hearing?
Well, I was approached, first off, I'm like any other citizen who's well-read. I followed the UFO the ET issues casually. But I was approached 2 weeks ago if I would be part of this hearing. And I sort of blew it off because I didn't really understand what the hearing is about. I had other plans. But then another person who I had respect for briefed me more fully on what the hearing was about. And then I thought it would be an opportunity for me to spend 1 week, and of course preparation before the hearing, to become very knowledgeable about this subject, which is probably the most significant subject in our entire civilization, because it juxtaposes whether or not there's a force out there that we can identify with these sightings of saucers, you call it, whatever, and that force is observing the planet. And I've now, after the testimony and the research that I've done, I think that this hearing is extremely worthwhile, and there's no question about it that the government of the United States is in total denial of this. And of course, we've had several smoking guns to show that this denial is ridiculous.
Well, you're not the only one who thinks that, sir, and of course I appreciate any Americans who go about investigating this. I think it is a significant issue that too often the media cynically writes off as just a joke. I'm wondering, is this common to have independent citizen groups invite former legislators to come and do a congressional-style hearing? And did your experience, sir, in the Senate serve you well in preparation for this?
Well, certainly my experience in the Senate did serve me well, and of course the other 5 members of the House certainly add to it. So we all have, in fact, I think the number is, it's about 80 years of legislative experience on our side of the table. But we're all retired from public office, and yet we're obviously citizens interested in the public issues involved. So it's the first knowledge I have, that's why I didn't understand initially, of this kind of a format. The reason for the format was that the group that's putting it on is the Paradigm Research Group. They wanted to be able to see if they could shame the Congress, so to speak, into having a hearing like this. I personally don't think it's going to happen. I think the Congress is not going to be interested in a subject like this. There's no political benefit, and there's political risk involved. So, but there's a new direction that this should go in, and this should go in towards a global, because this is a global issue, not just an American issue. The American government is the one that's most irresponsible in handling the subject, but it's a global issue, and we should have the United Nations, the General Assembly, form an agency and have a global conference of scientists that would focus on the issues involved.
Sir, how specifically is the American government irresponsible in handling this issue?
Well, first off, you get the White House. Well, they don't know anything about it. There's nothing, they don't have any files. Well, that's an outright lie. Whether it comes from who in the White House or the president. And of course what happens is all the way down the chain of command, they keep the cover-up. Now the cover-up started with what happened in Roswell, where a spacecraft, flying saucer, what have you, crashed, and apparently there were 4 humanoids or whatever that died or perished in that event. And right after that happened, within hours, the general involved, General Ramey, took charge of it and just began to shut everything down. It's classified, intimidating anybody and everybody that was involved, intimidating them and getting a lot of military personnel to sign non-disclosure agreements. Now, that's who we have been interviewing these last 3 days, and we got 2 more days to interview military personnel who were on the scene, who give direct first-hand testimony, and then the researchers and the scholars that have devoted their time and energy. So you got military personnel as high-ranking as lieutenant colonels and full bird colonels, and scholars who are steeped in the field and who have written numerous books on the subject.
Well, Senator, I do appreciate you and your fellow legislators using your celebrity and renown to draw attention to this issue to pressure Congress to at least start talking about it. But I have to ask, are some of the other former Congress members just picking up a paycheck for this thing, or do you think they're genuinely concerned?
No, they're generally concerned. Well, first off, the paycheck, stop and think. It's 5 days, 9 to 5 every day. So it's not what you call a high salary situation, but they covered all the expenses, and it's just reasonable. You know, you get the pundits that go out and speak and get $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, or a Henry Kissinger who gets $100 and some odd thousand a speech, or Ronald Reagan who goes to Japan and gets what, $2 million for one speech. So the money is incidental. Clearly, unless you're well endowed, and I'm not, and I don't think any of the other persons would be what I call wealthy. No, they're public citizens who have served and realized that this issue, and they came in very skeptically. There was nobody who was overwhelmingly convinced that this was a legitimate issue, and fearful of the issue, because, as you know, mainstream media by and large tries to marginalize people and call them a little kooky. And
indeed,
well, I was interviewed right off the beginning, and a person said, "Well, Senator, tell us about the little green men." Well, I don't know any little green men, and it was demeaning, and I was able to bring the person around. Because what's at issue here is something we don't know, and that the government would cover it up. Now, we know why the government's covering it up, because we have several smoking guns. And I'll give you one of them as an example. With the missile silos in Montana, the Dakotas, and one other state, Wyoming, Whenever there was one of these these call them flying saucers, for lack of a better word, hovering above the silo, the missiles were unlaunchable.
Yes, we mentioned that in our introduction to the segment. And
well, I'll tell you right off the bat, the military go bonkers over that, because what it shows is that after spending $1 trillion on this unbelievable defense system, when push comes to shove, it doesn't work. So obviously, they want to keep that secret. But the nature of the military in this country and the nature of those in power, the leaders, is that they have a perception totally towards secrecy and to keep things covered up. And that's very sad, because if we're to be an operating democracy, the people have to know what's going on. And since this thing is of civilized, planetary import, the people of the world should know what's going on. Most countries have been much more revealing on this subject, but the United States is the dark hole in this regard.
Well, sir, I'm sorry we're out of time for this, but it's a pleasure to have you talking about it, an issue many Americans care about. Former Senator Mike Gravel, thank you for talking to us, and I want to tell you what a pleasure it was watching you debate for president back in 2008.
That's not all that was happening up in the sky over Fresno today. Take a look at this. The KMPH newsroom received dozens of calls and emails from viewers all over the valley about this strange-looking object in the sky. So we sent out one of our photographers who shot this video. Witnesses say it seemed to stay in one place in the sky for nearly 4 hours. Several of you also sent in pictures of the odd orb, and the question everyone is asking is, what is it? To find out, we called the Fresno Yosemite Airport tower, the air tower, the FAA, and the local National Air, or the Air National Guard. Of course, no one seemed to know what it was. Best guesses are a parachute or a weather balloon.
And from those pictures, you can see why they might say that, but could it really be one of those? So Chief Meteorologist Kevin Raymer is here with his take on these two theories. So Kevin, what do you think? Could that be a weather balloon?
Don't think so. I'll tell you why in just a second. Also, I was getting calls as early as 1:30 this afternoon about this, and some people were saying, well, maybe it's the moon. You know how sometimes you can see the moon during the daytime. But at the same time this was occurring, we also could vaguely see the crescent.
I saw that.
So that wasn't it at all. I think it was way too windy for a weather balloon or a parachute, and here's why. Take a look at this weather graphic right here for you. Early this afternoon, the wind at 1,000 feet above the ground was blowing just out of the west-northwest toward the coast at about 30 miles an hour and 70 miles an hour all the way up to 30,000 feet. So if it were a balloon or a parachute, it would have been zipping across the valley.
Wouldn't have stayed there for 4 hours.
It would not have stayed nearly as stationary as it appears to over about 4 or 5 hours. Called the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, and also the UFO Center in Washington State, and they don't have a clue.
We still have no idea what that was.
Definitely creating a lot of buzz in the newsroom and outside of the newsroom.
But if you have any good pictures too, send them on into us and we'll share them with everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
Holy shit, a fleet of UFOs in Edmond, Oklahoma. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. This is badass. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is at 33rd and Santa Fe in Edmond, Oklahoma. There's 2 more. And they are fizzling out. We got some weird shit going on in Oklahoma. And this is facing south, towards Moore, where the tornado just ripped everything up. Looks like they're all flying in some weird flight path. Hoping I'm getting a lot of people to look at this just by standing out here on the edge of the road. It's about 9 p.m. They're definitely not planes from Tanker or helicopters. Tanker would probably have jets scrambled by now, so I don't know what the hell is probably not showing up on their radar.
Lane Road with our latest radar scan right here. So this tornado is now right along Sunny Lane Road. Okay, so Sunny Lane Road. And this is going to be 4th Street. This is getting across now back into the Oklahoma City.
Maybe it's some sort of weird firework.
Fireworks don't do that.
No? That just disappear? Wow.
Kind of like stationary, eh?
That's so weird. There's another one over there. You see it? The red one?
Oh yeah,
By the hydro pool?
I do see it.
What the fuck is it? Look, even stars is looking.
Yeah.
Object which streaked over rural Newfoundland Monday is now long gone, but the mystery remains. Residents of Harbour Mile, Newfoundland, documented what some are calling a UFO, and they're still hoping to identify whatever it was. Now, Harry Forstall, watching this very closely from the newsroom, I feel like I should call you Mulder or something like that.
Well, the truth is out there, Anne-Marie, and you know if it's out there, we'll find it. But it was only the beginning of this month that the British actually quit their UFO hotline. They've had one for 30 years or more where people could call in if they saw an unidentified flying object. They said, you know what, there's no interest in it, so we're going to stop. Now we know why all the UFOs have moved to Newfoundland. This was the image that folks in Harbour Mile saw, and as you can see, it is pretty dramatic, and this is what folks there are talking about. Witnesses say a bullet-shaped object passed over their community. It took 5 to 8 minutes to transit. The sighting was on Monday, and the object, as you can see, is trailing flames, or appears to be. Looks a bit like a missile. Now, we talked to the RCMP. They basically told us they've done all they can. They can't confirm what the object is, but they have so little to go on. They passed it off to public safety. We haven't heard from the Department of Public Safety yet. We did get a call back from Department of National Defense today, and they told us that they're aware of the object's existence. However, they said they knew of no missile testing taking place near the coast of Newfoundland. We also spoke with the French Department of Defense. They are testing missiles off the French coast, but they said there's no way anything could have made its way across the Atlantic. That's what we know so far.
Well, that's what the experts say, but what do folks in Newfoundland make of all of this?
Well, funny you should ask, Anne-Marie, because we asked a couple of folks in Newfoundland, and I think we have a picture of them here. We spoke to these residents of Harbour Mile, and they didn't seem concerned at all, actually. They dismissed it all as an optical illusion. They said, maybe there's some mass hysteria going on. But aside from these guys, other folks at Harbour Mile say they are concerned. They want to know if someone's testing missiles off the coast and what the terms are, or whether it's all being kept hush-hush. But we're going to try and get a clip from these guys and find out exactly what they have to say.
Friends of yours, they look like here.
You notice the resemblance. Yeah. Thanks, Anne-Marie.
En Juliaca, estas imágenes que vamos a ver a continuación fueron grabadas ayer exactamente a las 5:30 de la tarde. Este objeto no identificado se precipitó a tierra dejando una estela de humo y luego a su paso por el cielo abierto de la región de Puno, como vemos. Por la forma de este objeto podría tratarse de un meteorito, pero por supuesto serán los expertos quienes van a determinar de qué se trata exactamente. La persona que grabó estas imágenes es Cristian Palomino García y se percató de la escena en pleno viaje y lo registró en un video de cámara casera, pero se ve perfecto.
¿Qué puede ser? ¿Un cohete?
No, imposible, tan grande. Imposible, tan grande.
la noche, a las 8:38, la cámara fija que Televisa tiene dirigida hacia el volcán Popocatépetl captó esta imagen. Vean, está impresionante. Fíjese con mucha atención. Se trata de un objeto no identificado que aparece, ahí está apareciendo, en la pantalla del lado superior derecho. El objeto cruza el cielo, avanza hacia el cráter del volcán, parece que da como un pequeño giro y después aparentemente cae dentro del volcán generando una luminosidad, sale como esta luz cuando entra el objeto. Hasta ahora se desconoce de qué se trata. Aquí estuvimos toda la noche sacando conclusiones, no llegamos a nada, pero bueno, usted saque sus conclusiones porque realmente está muy curiosa esta imagen.
Debate, presidential candidate Dennis Kucinich said he'd seen one, so has Jimmy Carter. So did a pilot who traveled from Iran to Washington so he could speak out today about his encounter with the UFO. Now, unidentified flying object means just that, unidentified. It says nothing about what or from where. But for years now, polling has shown that a majority of Americans believe the government, our government, simply isn't telling all it knows about those lights in the sky, whatever they are. Well, tonight, CNN's Gary Tuchman investigates.
If you flew on Air France from Nice to London on January 28, 1994, your captain says he saw a UFO 1,000 feet long just outside your window.
It seemed to be a huge flying disc.
The now retired pilot is one of 14 men, mainly former government and military officials from 7 different countries, talking about their UFO experiences.
It disappeared in about 10 to 20 seconds.
This conference took place in Washington, and the cast of characters was almost strangely, well, conventional. One of the believers, former governor of Arizona, Fife Symington.
Los habitantes del municipio de Pradera, en el Valle del Cauca, aseguran que un supuesto ovni apareció en el cielo. Sin embargo, el alcalde de la población tiene una versión diferente de lo que pudo haber ocurrido. Aquí está la historia.
Eran las 8:40 de la noche cuando los habitantes de Pradera Valle fueron sorprendidos por esta, según ellos, misteriosa y fuerte luz que apareció sobrevolando en el cielo de manera estática. Las imágenes fueron grabadas por varios videoaficionados.
No, pues la verdad no se sabe, tal vez pueda ser un ovni, un cometa o una nave.
Dicen los habitantes que el supuesto objeto volador no identificado se vio sostenido en el cielo por más de 6 minutos.
Ella estuvo siempre estática en el mismo sitio.
30 segundos después del primer avistamiento, la luz se traslada a una posición a gran velocidad.
Al principio se presentó en medio, después se pasó hacia la derecha y en últimas la vimos hacia el lado de acá, como al municipio de Palmira.
Y aparece por tercera vez hasta que se pierde en el cielo, dejando intranquila a la población.
Pues la comunidad se sintió bastante asombrada.
El alcalde de Pradera, Adolfo Escobar, dice que se trata de una luz de bengala lanzada por el ejército.
Ellos dicen que no lo hicieron tan cerca a Pradera, pero que seguramente el viento ha hecho que la bengala se arrime al municipio.
Sin embargo, entre los habitantes persiste la duda de si se trató de un fenómeno sobrenatural.
НЛО в Прокопьевском районе. Работники одного из промышленных предприятий зафиксировали на камеру появление объекта, который двигался по сложной траектории. Интересно, что НЛО там уже видели неоднократно. Возможно, Прокопьевский район вызывает особый интерес у внеземных цивилизаций.
Bu ne lan? Ben niye görüntüye gelmiyor? Oradan uçuyor bak, görüyor musun? Ben niye göremiyorum onu? Bu mu? Yok. Ya bu. Mersi, acayipsin. Işık kırmızı ışıkla yapıyor. Altında kırmızı ışık var. Kırmızı ışıltısı var. Yani bu tarafa. Geçti gitti. balona benzer bir şey. Yön değiştirdi. Yön değiştirdi, yön. Adamın arkasına doğru indi.
This could mean for the world and the global agricultural food supply.
Jesu li Sveti Petar kod Zadra posjetili turisti iz svemira? Mještani su uvjereni da jesu. Na nebu se, kažu, u nedjelju i ponedjeljak navečer pojavila čudna svjetlost. 10-ak minuta pomicala se velikom brzinom i mijenjala boje. Neki mještani misle da su vidjeli i svece na nebu. Više, Ivana Franić-Marković.
Svjetleća kugla koja mijenja boje glavna je tema razgovora u okolici Zadra. Jedni vjeruju da je NLO, drugi smatraju da je riječ o nekom planetu ili atmosferskoj pojavi. Kata Colić sve je zabilježila kamerom, no misli da Mali Zeleni njezino mjesto ipak nisu posjetili.
Od jedne male točkice počelo se stvarati 3 točkice, pa zeleno svjetlo, pa crveno svjetlo, povećavalo se, smanjivalo se.
Neobične pojave na nebu iznad Svetog Petra česte su, tvrde mještani. Viđali su, oni kažu, i svece na nebu, svjetleće križeve, čuli su neobične zvukove.
Veli, prožučilo je nešto, ali što je bilo ja ne znam. Nisam ja vanka otvorila vrata izaći, se bojim da me neko čapne iza vrata.
U Svetom Petru i neki svetac bio, što bilo. Neko se pokazao.
Stručnjaci su pak skloni teoriji o nekoj zemaljskoj pojavi.
Kasnije kad pada sjena na sam taj objekt, taj rub se pomiče prema unutra. Nešto je ili neka prirodna pojava ili neka letjelica, ali ovo zemaljska.
Sveci, izvanzemaljci, možda zvijezda ili planet. Teorija je i previše. Svatko ima svoju priču, no pogledi su svima uprti u nebo u potrazi za još nekom svjetlećom kuglom.
เครื่องบินแอร์ไชน่าชนวัตถุปริศนาไปเชื่อกันว่าเป็นการชน UFO
ใช่เพราะชนเป็นการชนที่ระดับ 26,000 ฟุตสูงขนาดนั้นจะชนกับอะไรจะฝูงแล้วดูบุบนี่คือจมูกเครื่องบินนะคะนี่คือ Boeing 757 จมูกเครื่องบินบุบไปขนาดนี้
ชนจมูกยุบอย่างนี้เลยนะฮะ
ในความสูงที่ 26,000 แล้วมันไม่มีร่องรอยแล้วคือเขาบอกในขณะที่บินอยู่เนี่ยนักบินอวกาศกำลังบินอยู่เขาบอกว่ามันได้ยินเสียงดังสนั่นไปหมดเลยแล้วจนนักบินเนี่ยตกใจมากก็เลยส่งสัญญาณช่วยเหลือฉุกเฉินไปที่ท่าอากาศยานที่ใกล้ที่สุดแล้วก็ขอลงจอดฉุกเฉินปรากฏว่าพอลงจอดฉุกเฉินเนี่ยจมูกเครื่องบินเป็นแบบนี้หนึ่งจะฝูงนกก็คงจะไม่ใช่จะเครื่องบินอะไรมันก็ต้องเห็น
ซูเปอร์แมน
หรืออะไรสักอย่างนึงแต่ทีนี้เนี่ยทั้งนี้ทั้งนั้นเนี่ยนะคะเจ้าหน้าที่สืบสวนด้าน UFO ของรัฐบาลอังกฤษเนี่ยบอกว่าไม่ว่าจะชนกับอะไรก็แล้วแต่รัฐบาลจีนมีข้อมูลขึ้นอยู่กับว่าจะเปิดเผยหรือไม่จะชนกับ UFO หรืออะไรไอ้รอยชนหรืออะไรเนี่ยมันต้องมี
หรือจะไปชนกับการจารกรรมอะไรยังไงหรือไม่
ใช่อยู่ที่ว่าจะเปิดเผยข้อมูลหรือไม่แต่ว่าระดับที่ 26,000 เนี่ยก็ตัดเรื่องประเด็นว่าชนนกชน
นกเป็นไม่ได้ 26,000 ฟิตไม่ได้
ชนเครื่องบินเล็กอะไรอย่างเงี้ย
Os OVNIs apoiando. Olha, bem estranho o negócio. O bagulho é louco, o bagulho é tenso. Os OVNIs apoiando o movimento. Não nada na gente, tá ótimo. E mijando também. O VT 2. Morte ao governador! A cabeça do governador! tá. Mas ia ter polêmica, ele já junta duas coisas pro outro. Mas ia ter muito filho da puta. Não dá pra ver. E dá um chutão no sapo dele. Pelo menos ele expulsa outro.
Não dá, eu juro que não dá.
Поступают все новые подробности катастрофы пассажирского самолета в окрестностях столицы Пакистана. Сейчас вы видите первые кадры с места, где сегодня вечером разбился Боинг 737, выполнявший внутренний рейс из мегаполиса Карачи в Исламабад. Данные о погибших разнятся, но все источники сходятся в одном, что жертв не меньше 130 на борту лайнера и, возможно, еще на земле. Самолет упал на деревню Хусейн-Абад в нескольких километрах по курсу посадочной полосы международного аэропорта. Пока мало что известно об обстоятельствах трагедии. Агентству Рейтер очевидцы рассказали о каком-то огненном шаре в небе прямо перед тем, как рухнул Боинг. Отчасти эта версия подтверждается заявлением министра обороны Пакистана. Интерфакс приводит его слова, что самолет загорелся в воздухе. Возможно, люди видели в небе молнию. В районе аэропорта сегодня проливные дожди и ураганный ветер. Известно также, что связь с самолетом прервалась почти сразу после того, как пилоты получили от диспетчеров разрешение на посадку. Судя по обломкам, лайнер принадлежал пакистанской авиакомпании Боджа Airlines. У нее еще 4 таких самолета. Разбившийся сегодня Боинг совершил первый полет в 1980 году. Боджа купил его менее 2 месяцев назад. Как раз сегодня компания выполнила на этой машине первый рейс из Карачи в Исламабад.
Breaking news, solving problems. This is Channel 13 Action News, live at 11.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us. I'm Trisha Keene.
And I'm Steve Wolford. Well, let's take another trip back into the realm of paranormal tonight. Last night we had ghost hunters, now UFOs.
That's right, and there is a Las Vegas guy making an extraordinary claim about extraterrestrials. So we sent Action News reporter Mike Delastrito to check it out. Mike?
All right, guys, just listen up here. This guy says the Old Testament, written in Hebrew, taught him how to summon UFOs. All right, he says he can also do this on command, and he adds he's been doing it for 25 years, keeping all of it secret until now.
These beings are here. They're here. They're just sitting right up there.
We met up with Prophet Yahweh, seer of Yahweh, at Doolittle Park off Lake Mead. We picked the day, we picked the time, and we picked the location.
Everyone's going to think you're absolutely nuts. Well, I thought I was absolutely nuts.
Until he says he saw UFOs. Over the years, 1,500 of them.
Can we make it 1,501 today? What do you think? I'll try it.
He says the voice in his head told him to go public now. So we took him up on his offer, and we scanned the skies. Nothing but a few clouds. When the prophet started praying for a sighting, I wasn't exactly convinced.
I pray, oh Yahweh, that you send a sighting so that they know that I am not mentally ill. I am not a false prophet, like those who seek to kill me say I am.
I see something straight up.
Oh, brother, look at it. There it is.
You can barely see it, a white speck. Then another sighting.
There it is. I got it.
Photojournalist Jonathan Hawkins locks in on it. Let's take a closer look here. It's an orange sphere that appeared out of nowhere. I call the boss with an unexpected change in my story. I can see it clear as day. In fact, it's bright.
I can't believe this.
It's moving pretty fast.
It's going to Nellis Air Force Base. It wants to be seen.
We called Nellis to see what these things might be. Guess what? They didn't call us back. But this thing started coming back toward us.
Yeah.
It's coming toward us now, I think.
What?
See, it's coming up toward us.
Whoa, man! Oh, hallelujah!
Then, a few seconds later, it disappeared.
It's going back up in space.
Prophet Yahweh isn't concerned. He says it'll be back. And I'm still not quite sure what those things were. Now, if I didn't see this for myself, I probably would have just laughed this whole thing off. Prophet Yahweh says, though, this is just the beginning. He says we're going to see a lot more of these things starting next week. And he says one will come down low enough for all of Las Vegas to see. Mike Delastrito, Channel 13 Action News.
Interesting. You know what? If anybody knows what that was, please call Mike Delastrito and identify that object.
So, Jerry, do you mind if we play the X-Files theme song while you do what?
Yeah, really.
I think I can handle it.
Yeah.
No comment on that. Let's, from a scientific point of view, let's go right to early warning desert Doppler. And, you know, that's not the best for picking up UFOs, but I'll tell you, it's pretty good for thunderstorms, all kinds of wacky convective activities in the atmosphere.